Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, here today we are going to review the session that we have taken at 20th January 2022, in which we have continued creating frames. So upon completion of this revision, you should be able to use frame element or tag and its attribute to control the display and differentiate between frame and frame set. What is frame? As in previous session, we have discussed about frame set, which is the element used to divide the browser window into more than one sections. And in each section, we can insert with the help of frames different web pages or HTML documents. Means with the help of frame set, actually we divide the browser window into more than one divisions, and then we have used frame element in that divided sections of the browser window to give the sources of different web pages to display in that divided sections of the browser. So we use this frame element to define a single frame within the frame set. There will be a frame element for each division created by the frame set. And this element have some required and optional attributes to adjust the frame properties. Here we have source and name, two required attributes. Source or SRC, which is a required attribute, and it provides the URL or name of the web document, HTML document that will be displayed in the frame. And the second attribute over here, it is name, that will allow targeting by other HTML documents. And it works in conjunction with the target attribute of anchor tag, area tag, base, and form tags. The next two attributes over here that we can use with the frame element are margin width and margin height. Margin width, which is an optional attribute, and its value is stated in number of pixels. What does this determine? Or what does this adjust? It actually determines the horizontal space between the frame contents and the frame borders that we have created in the frame set. And we want to give space between the frame contents and frame borders. If we have applied the borders, then we can give margin between the frame content and the frame borders. Horizontal space means it is the left and right spacing of the framed page. And then the margin height, which is also an optional attribute, and its value is also stated in pixels, in number of pixels, and it determines the vertical spacing between the frame content and borders, means top border. Top margin is adjusted with this margin height. And the next attribute is scrolling, which displays the scroll bar in the frame. And its possible values are yes, no, or auto. Yes, with yes value, scroll bar will be displayed. With no value of scrolling attribute, it will never display the scroll bar. And with auto, it will decide on the frame content, and by default, the scrolling is always auto. Means it depends on the framed document, HTML document. If the content is large and it needs the scrolling, then scroll bar will be inserted by auto scrolling. Otherwise, we can adjust with yes or no. With no, it will never display the scroll bar. With yes, it will display the scroll bar. The next optional attribute over here, no resize, which will prevent the viewers from resizing the frame. Means if we use the resize attribute with the frame tag, it will prevent viewers from resizing the frames. Otherwise, by default, user can stretch or shrink the frame display by selecting the borders, frame borders, and moving it up, down, left or right. So it means with no resize, frame size will be fixed in the user or viewer browser. Here we have some examples of frame sets. In this example, the frame set tag divided the browser window with the rows attribute, and rows attribute is assigned the value of 50%, 50%. Means 2 rows are inserted, frame is divided row wise, and both rows have the equal percentage of browser window. Here, frame set divided the browser window in columnar form with COLS attribute, and equal division is given, equal real estate percentage is given of 50%. Here we can see that frame set is dividing the browser window in not only row wise but also column wise. Means frame set can use the row and column attribute at the same time. First, rows attribute will divide the browser window into rows of 50%, and then column attribute will divide the browser window into columns with 50% area of the browser. So in this way, with frame set tag, row and column attribute will equally divide the browser window into 4 sections, 2 by row, 2 by column. Here is an example of the code using frame set and dividing the browser window with rows attribute. And here we can see that rows attribute is dividing the sections 20% for first left frame, then static, and 20%, last 20% is the division of rightmost pane, whereas in center static, it will give the rest of the space to the center section or pane of the browser window. So in the first pane, first 20% of the window, headers.html document is adjusted in src attribute of frame tag, which is nested inside the frame set. And then we have used no resize attribute to bound the user that user cannot resize the frame. And then scrolling is no, means with header section of the framed page, as we don't need the scrolling, so there is no scrolling. Scrolling is given the value of no. Then the center part of the document, frame document, is body.html. Its source means in the second frame, middle frame, as it is divided, frame is divided, overall browser window is divided in row wise. So top row is used for header.html document, where we don't need the scrolling and don't need the resizing. So no resize attribute is used. And then second part, where the major section of the browser window is given. Here we have used the frame with src of body.html. And in last section of 20% division, we have inserted navigation bar.html document, where we also have fixed the vision of the frame, means user cannot resize it, so no resize attribute is used. And again, scrolling is no. After fixing the frame and its attributes, we have closed the frame set. Here in this example output, we can see that the header section don't have the scroll bars, whereas in central section, we can see that we have the scroll bar. And in the last section, in the third section or window pane, again, we don't have the scroll bars. And it cannot be resized. First and last sections cannot be resized, but central part can be resized. So in this way, we can use the frame set and frames attributes to adjust the web page layout. So the differences between frame and frame set in HTML are: a frame in HTML is an element that allows dividing the browser window into multiple sections, where each section can load a separate HTML document. Whereas frame set, an element in HTML that consists of collection of frames in browser window. And frame, each frame holds a separate HTML document or a separate web link, whereas each frame set holds one or more frames. Frames has the attribute such as frame border, margin width, margin height, name, etc. Whereas frame set has the attributes like rows and columns. So to sum up, frame set actually divides the overall browser window into multiple sections with the help of rows and columns attribute, whereas in those rows and columns, frame tag or frame element loads the separate HTML document, and use of frame border and margin width and height is done in frame HTML tag. Hopefully, students, all the tags and their relevant attributes are clear to you in setting frames and frame set. But still, if you have any question, you can ask. I'm here to assist you. In the next class, we will start Unit 6, that is Computer Logic and Gates. Till then, take care. Allah Hafiz.